Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Living Well-Rounded podcast, a curated space for those of us seeking an intentional life filled with grace, passion, and purpose. I'm your hostess, Geomyra, wife, mama, life and biz coach, educator, dessert fanatic, and on the ultimate mission to get you closer to your idea of what it means to live well-rounded. Right here is where you'll find exceptional resources, noteworthy tips, community, and relatable stories, no matter what season of life you're in. Take a break, cozy up, hang out with me for a bit, and let's dive in. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Living Well-Rounded. Today, I am not flying solo. I have my friend Akeshi joining me as we chat all about imposter syndrome. You may or may not have heard the term imposter syndrome, but Akeshi dives deep into the topic, and we have a great conversation all about imposter syndrome and how we have to just basically have faith over fear, how we have to believe in ourselves, our talents, and our gifts in order to take it to the next level. I've been trying to get Akeshi on the show forever because she is just a wealth of knowledge, and I know for a fact that she's going to bless someone with her story and everything that we talk about today on the show. But before I bring Akeshi to the mic, I want to read her bio because she is just a phenomenal woman and is very well accomplished. So let me introduce you to Akeshi. Akeshi has dedicated her career to bringing glamour and style to every celebration. As the founder and CEO of Kesh Events, Akeshi is highly regarded as a global luxury wedding planner and event designer for clients of the most discerning taste. She is the leading expert in the wedding and event industry on all things celebration and is widely regarded as one of the best wedding planners in America by brides, top 5 wedding vendors in the world by WedLux, top wedding planner in Chicago by Party Slate, and more. She has worked with celebrities, athletes, TV personalities worldwide like Skylar Diggs-Smith, Tobias Harris, Luvvie Ajayi-Jones, and more. She is the author of best-selling book, The Art of Floral and Event Design. Her work and insights have been featured in national wedding publications such as Brides, Grace Armand, Wedding Style, Inside Weddings, Modern Luxury Brides Magazine, Munulucci Brides Magazine, The Knot, Wedding Lovely, Tribune, Wedding Guide, and more. She also speaks at seminars and has appeared as a guest on TV segments and radio interviews. Her focus is always on transforming a personal story into a living, breathing moment in time. Akeshi believes every moment should be celebrated with style and elegance. She's the host of the Akeshi Akinseye podcast, a highly rated podcast where she provides a wealth of ideas and information on all things celebrations. She is also the founder and editor of The Art of Celebrating magazine, your ultimate resource of inspiration for couples, celebrants, and anyone who is simply in love with all things celebrations. Her dedication to supporting and sharing her knowledge to the industry initiated the idea for her mentorship and education program for wedding and event pros, the Kesh Experience. You guys, she is truly amazing, one of my accountability partners, and we just have the best time when we connect, and you will see why here on today's episode. Let's welcome Akeshi to Living Well-Rounded. Hey, Akeshi, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here as a guest.
I know, right? We've been talking about this for a minute, and so our schedules have aligned. And so I feel like this is the perfect time, the perfect topic with the perfect guest. So, Akeshi, I know you very well, and I know a lot of our listeners know you, but for the people who don't, introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. My name is Akeshi Akinseye, and I am a wedding and event planner, floral and event designer, author, speaker, business coach, and lifestyle expert. I am the founder of Kesh Events and the Kesh Experience, amongst other things. But yeah, excited to be here.
Amongst a lot of things. You do a lot of things, and you do a lot of things well. And again, if you guys aren't following her, make sure you check her out on Instagram because she has such a great following and has the best content. So check her out over on IG. Yes, I just love following your pages. And I say pages because, again, you got a lot going on. But it's all good. All good stuff.
Be here.
Yes, it's good. All right, Akeshi. So there are many creatives and business owners out there that have big dreams like you and I have. However, we sometimes convince ourselves that we are inadequate or we're just not a good fit for certain things. And so, why do you believe that is if, we have these dreams and we know we can actually do them?
Yeah, I mean, there's several things. I think the truth is, for some of us, it's more cultural, right? We come from a society that expects us not to even try or believe in ourselves or go for the big things. And I say the big things versus like the little things. They're all achievements, but some of it is cultural, some of it is in our heads. But when you really think about it, it's all based in our environment, most of it. And then you have your inner fears, inner doubts, but and then you look at, maybe it could be influenced by family or where you come from. And if you're not surrounded by go-getters, high achievers, you almost kind of follow that suit. So you feel like, well, this has to be enough, but there's, a whole world out there. And of course, fear. And fear can come from so many places, but there's so many things.
Oh man, that's so good. And I love how you led with culture and family, because people think that, you're looking at other people on the gram or you're looking at other people. But the sad thing sometimes is it can be your own family members, sometimes people's spouses that are telling them, friends, the people that should be supporting you and rocking with you are the ones sometimes that are just telling you that you shouldn't even try. And so I just love how you brought that up as a point of, something for people to consider, take an inventory of the people around you.
Your environment plays a huge factor in how you move and how you take action and how you overcome these doubts and inadequacies that you may feel. But that's, of course, the social aspect is one, and it will always be there. But family's huge. Support from even like your best friends. I've heard stories from people where, you share your dreams or your goal with your closest ones, and they tell you, well, do you even know anything about that? And if you tell yourself, well, if this person I care about is telling me that, maybe I don't, maybe I shouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you convince yourself that you are crazy and like, okay, I'm doing the most, so maybe I should just stay in my lane and do the little things that I know how to do.
Oh man, that is so good, because it's crazy, because as creatives, we definitely have multiple things we're interested in, multiple streams of income we're trying to achieve. And so the moment you tell someone like, I want to try something that feels outside of the box, then people will look at you sideways like, wait, you're a planner. Now you want to deal with flowers, or you're
Right.
a florist, but now you want to do fill in the blank. And it's like, you have to ask yourself, like, who are they to tell you that you can't or you shouldn't even try?
Yeah.
And I think that's wild.
A good example, when like 10 years ago, when I was thinking, so my initial thought was I want to start a catering and event planning company then. And my best friend at the time, her initial response was, what does she know about planning or event planning? She's never going to be successful. And I would never forget that. And I said, best friend at the time.
Let me tell you, I caught that. I caught that real
for a reason. But sometimes it's the people closest to you that add to that doubt and all those things. So yeah.
Similar story. It's same when I was transitioning from being a wedding planner to moving into the coaching space. And I always say I felt I was called to move into this particular space from coaching, teaching, educating, which I love so much. But there were people who will remain nameless, who were like, well, you plan weddings and parties and events. Like, who do you think you are to now coach other people or to be an educator? Or like, who's going to buy your course when you should be over here setting tables and doing timelines, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to learn when to weed people out if they're not able to accompany you on the next journey, next steps, and all the things. So love at the time.
I guess I'll call it the shedding phase, right? Sometimes you just have to shed and get rid of those people that don't fit your journey anymore. And that is okay.
It is okay. And you shouldn't have guilt. Okay. You should never have guilt around it if you know that your eye is on the prize and that, again, you are where you're supposed to be. unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, they are not in your life for that season anymore. They serve their purpose. Thank you, girl, for getting me here and for holding me down. But now I need and require something else, or other people, other support around me in this next chapter.
Absolutely.
Mm. And so, have you personally dealt with imposter syndrome in your career? You laugh before you finish. And how did you overcome it?
Oh gosh, it'd be hilarious if I said, no, of course not.
Not me.
I never feel imposter syndrome. What is that? I think that I laugh because it's real. And the more we laugh at it, I think the less powerful it becomes, quite honestly, right?
Amen. Yes.
First thing I want to share is that it's self-doubt, imposter syndrome is real. Let's just put it out there. It's real, right? And it happens to all of us. It actually happens to high achievers. If you look at all the research, imposter syndrome happens to mostly high achievers. And why is that? It's just, it literally happens to everyone all around the world. So when it happens to you, it's not a specific thing, right? And so I think just accepting that and understanding that is step one, right? So it's not this like unique situation to you. It happens every day, and it happens based on your journey. So every time I try something new, I feel it again. So like even if I overcome it the first time and I try something new, it comes up again. And if every time I elevate something, I want to go bigger, it's like, hello. So it's always lingering, right? And so it happens to all of us. Imposter syndrome is where you begin to feel like you're a fraud or like you don't deserve your achievements, especially for those that like you find when your business takes off a little faster than you anticipated. And that was me, right? So when I first started, I was like shy and all these things. And when I chose to really step into what I know how to do, it happened like literally like that. Everyone in Chicago was like, where did you come from? And then so while you want to celebrate that, a part of you is like, well, where did I come from? And is this really happening, or do I even deserve this? But I've only been in business for so long. So there were all these things that were lingering in my head. So you're always going to find that happening. And then it leads to lack of confidence, and you convince yourself not to post your achievements so much, right? Because now you feel like, oh, are you bragging or are you celebrating? It's just so many things. And these are all internal, right? But the truth is we all face it. Every time I want to, like, I have something new, in that initial moment of like posting, I pause. And then I was like, here we go again. And then there's all these things like someone is going to say like, here we go again with this one. What new business has she launched, and what new product is she selling? And then I tell myself, you know what, screw it, and post anyway. And I post. So that's my overcome, is to like feel the fear, literally face the flame and just step into it. Because the only way to get around that fear, get past it, is through it. Right? You could never, I don't know a way to go around imposter syndrome or my self-doubt. It's literally to face it head on by one, acknowledging it, like, I am afraid. But then going deeper into like, why are you afraid? Because a lot of times when you doubt yourself or you're afraid or you feel imposter syndrome, you're thinking about a person. I say this all the time. When you don't want to post on social media, when you don't want to post your video on social media, it's not the whole world you're afraid of. You're afraid of a specific group of people. I don't know who it is for each person, but when you acknowledge who that is, and you don't have to share with anyone, acknowledge who that person is and get over it and do it anyway, right?
Oh, man.
You know, I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but when you really think about, let's say you want to post something, right? And you're like, what would people think? It's not what would people think. It's what would someone, it could be a mentor, it could be your competition that follows you, but you're worried about what they would think. Because I don't think we care so much about the entire universe, the entire world's opinion. It's always a group of people, and could be really down to your community, your fellow planners or your fellow designers. It's not your clients for sure, because we want their money,
right?
But it's that person. And it's shifting those fears to like, wait, why am I in business in the first place? Or why am I even doing this? Am I doing it for you? And does your opinion really matter? And when you face it like that and you acknowledge that, and then you like, you know what? And why did I spend all this money and time? on this. It's not for you to judge it. And like, that's your opinion. So looking at it that way, facing all those fears and then doing it anyway, it's literally taking that one step forward as you're afraid of, or pushing that publish button. It's so powerful. Once you make that next step, you shed some of those fears away, you shed some of those doubts away, and then you feel more empowered.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so good, because you're right. Usually when we hesitate to do something, there are people in the back of our heads that we're like, what are they going to think? Are they going to think I'm bragging? Because we're not afraid to post for our real friends and family to see, or our supporters, or, we're not afraid to post for those people, because they're going to be like, hell yeah, girl, you killed it. Oh man, that's amazing. We're not afraid. And of course, we're not afraid to post for potential clients, because we need their money. And we
want them to see it.
And they're itching to see what is the latest and greatest coming out of, your powerhouse. So it's not the people that are actually going to pay your bills or the people that matter. You're focused on the people that really don't give a, they don't matter, like fill in the blanks there. So I think if we all have the attitude moving forward, just to post with the idea that, number one, when you do, it will most likely make you some money. So post with a purpose. And then the other side of it is post knowing that maybe you will be inspiring someone else or encouraging someone else who has a big dream, instead of someone that's probably miserable anyway, because why are you hating on someone doing amazing things?
Yeah. It's just, it's down to fear. It's like you're afraid of what your friend or your family member or your best friend or your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's usually a person. It's not the whole world. And obviously there's another part of it that's also fear of failure. Like you're afraid, like, okay, if I share this and it's not a success, that's another part of it. It's like you're afraid of, what if it doesn't work? So maybe you're excited about it, but what if it doesn't work? Then I have to deal with the shame of explaining why it didn't work. Right.
Oh man, but here's something else that we have to think about. Number one, what if it does work? And number two, will you be more ashamed of yourself if you never tried? Because you know what happens when someone does try and they do launch the thing that we said forever and a day we wanted to launch, then we're pissed. We're mad. And then we feel some type of way.
I was thinking about that. But it's also, I think the third part of that is, if it fails, what would you learn from it? Because then that's so powerful. Then you can go back, refine, revamp, and come out stronger. No one ever launched, I think it's Rory Vaden that says this, is your first launch will always be your worst launch, right? So whatever you put out first will always be the worst. So imagine that your first live that you're so terrified to do will be the worst you ever do. Like, that's amazing. Like, let's get this over with, right? Your first product, your first book, your first business would be the worst you would ever do. That to me is exciting. I'm like, let's get this like phase one out of the way so I can get to the good stuff. So to me, it's I just try to channel what I'm afraid of, embrace the fear, embrace all the things that give you. And two, it's like when you feel those things, it's because you truly care. Right? Because if you just launch something, you have there's nothing, no fear, no, like, you're not sweating when you're literally alive, then you're probably not as passionate about it. So that's a good thing. It's just about not letting all these things, all these feelings, all these fears stop you.
Right.
The biggest lesson is to step into it afraid, step into it doubtful, but still do it.
And step into it open to elevating, growing it, fine tuning it. All of us who have courses and, like you said, books, there are books that have different versions. There are courses that get retweaked, edited, new content, because we should always be evolving anyway. So, as we learn more, then we can add more so that someone else can learn and grow. I'm constantly like, all right, I need to update this in my course, or okay, I need to fine tune this when I'm speaking to my audience, because I've learned something and I feel like it'll make a difference, versus just saying like, oh, I failed, let me move on. No, it wasn't my best, but I'm always going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, you're never going to grow if you don't try. And you're never going to grow if you don't take risks. You're never going to grow if you don't embrace your fears. You're literally going to stay in the same place or worse. So we want more. I want more. I know that. So I know that I have to go through these scary hallways, right? To get there. And I embrace it because it's just part of the journey.
You say scary hallways. I'm thinking like a
Scary hallways.
haunted mansion.
Haunted mansions to
You
get
know,
to that main beautiful lobby. They have to go through the alley, but eventually you'll get to that lobby and it'll be beautiful.
Right. Like, listen, it's gonna be rough, but the adrenaline, it'll be so worth it. So worth it in the end. And so another question I have for you is, instead of making excuses regarding what we can't do or what we shouldn't do, how do we actually take action to make progress on these big goals that we have as we move into a new year?
I'll say, in terms of taking action, right? What I always recommend is to just kind of take everything out of your head and put it down on paper. When you visualize your goals, it helps even eliminate the things that are maybe just not necessary at that point. So I love a good brain dump. I just love a good brain dump where I just sit and I write all my crazy ideas, book titles, podcast titles, and then I flush them out. And then I can come back with fresh eyes and say, oh, what was I thinking? This is stupid. And I'll delete it or I'll scratch it out, right? And I'm more like electronic. A lot of people are pen and paper. Whatever works for you, inspires you, is to just get it out. And then figure out your next steps, which is, what is the most important thing I have to do right now? Right? These are all terrifying things, but you don't have to do all the scary things today, right? So when you put it in an order of which it has to be done, pick the first one, maybe the scariest one, right? And just take it one by one. A lot of people crash because they're trying to do it all at once. It's not possible. And the other part of it too is to just, I would say, do one thing each day. If it's just one that gets you closer to that goal, right? So it could be, today I'm going to buy my domain. Like, the business idea scares me. Fine. Buy your domain and tuck it away, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe the next day I'm thinking about, okay, today I'm going to get my Pinterest page and get that handle. I'm going to put that away. That's, the more you do it, the more it becomes habit. And then the next year, like, so what did we do today towards the business? Because when you look back 30 days, you've done 30 things.
That's so good.
You know what I mean? And think about how much more you can do in 30 more. So it's about taking it one by one. It's literally not a marathon. Take your time. And two, understand that your journey is your journey. Unfortunately, social media is the worst. It's great, but it's the worst form for anyone that struggles with self-doubt and imposter syndrome, because you're looking at these people, and I say people because social media is what we want you to see. It's real life, but it's not real life, because you don't see everything else that's happening around that business. So it's the worst way to compare anything. Comparison is not the best form for anyone. I personally believe my journey is my journey, and I never look at what other people are doing as a way to compare my path, because my journey is my journey. And it may take shorter for me, it may take longer, but it is my journey. And it's totally unique to my process, because my end result could be way bigger than the person that's already here. And again, we're not comparing, but again, just to take your path and just focus on your journey and try not to be so distracted by other people's journey, because we do a lot of comparing. I mean, it's so bad, and it doesn't do us any good. And then the next step would be to acknowledge where you struggle, right? So if you know, because we have to be honest with ourselves. You don't have to share this with anyone, but we know where our strengths lie. We know where we have challenges, right? So knowing what you're capable of is probably one of the biggest things you can do for yourself. And then seeking help for those places that you struggle, right? So, I would say, like, acknowledge or recognize where you feel like a fraud. And I say this because a lot of people take shortcuts. That's why they sometimes, imposter syndrome comes from just natural feelings. Sometimes it comes from the fact that you took a shortcut and you cut corners and you're not fully equipped to do that job, right? For example, I'm going to say this. A lot of people are teaching workshops now, right? I see it all the time. Floral workshops, a lot of people are business coaches, right? But you need to get your house in order first, right? You're not, maybe for some people, they're not ready to be a business coach because you're just giving them the shiny things and you're not doing the people you serve any justice by giving them half the information because you don't know the other half of it. So I would say first, arm yourself, and this is very important, with education.
Right.
Fill in those gaps where you struggle. There's no shame in learning where you struggle because you're more confident when you're educated.
Right. And it's
So,
interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead.
No. I love all of these tips. I'm sitting over here taking notes. And I will say one of the things I love and admire about you is you are out here putting out the content, pumping into your community, all the things, but you set time aside for education, for up leveling, for investing in yourself so that you can pour into others, which has definitely impacted me because you and I are accountability partners in some capacity. And for sure, it's like, all right, I'm going to put education in my budget for the new year and continue on this path. I always say coaches need coaches, strategists need strategists. People, you can't just stop and just think you're going to figure it all out. You should always be working to improve. And that's something that I have definitely invested money in this year, is the educational component, because experience is one thing, but you also want to learn from people who have walked the path and people who are where you are, so that you can say, no, honey, I did the work. Like, I deserve to be here because I did all the things and you may not have seen me do them, but please trust and believe that I did it and I've earned my place here and I didn't cut corners. And so I think that's so important.
Yeah, because you feel like if let's say you want to launch a podcast, for example, and you don't know how to launch a podcast, instead of launching a podcast, not knowing what you're doing, you can go learn, invest in a course, invest in a coach on how to launch a podcast properly, come back and give your best. You're going to show up more confident, less self-doubt, less imposter syndrome for sure. And give your best. It's the same thing when we learn, we show up better for us and our communities. So it's a win-win. And, when you look at the most successful people in the world, track back to anyone you can think of, they've had a coach, they've had some sort of business, and they're always learning. I would say be a forever student. The day you stop learning is the day you stop growing.
That is so powerful. So powerful.
Yeah, so you find that your self-doubt, that feeling of imposter syndrome will diminish, may not go away completely, but you find that you show up more confidently. You're able to, talk about what you know. Like, for me, if I want to go share floral tips on Instagram Live, let's say I host an Instagram Live, but I just started designing. I don't know a lot about, floral design. I'm going to fumble on my Instagram Live because I don't know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And when someone asks me a question, I may end that live sooner than planned because I'm like, oh shoot, I was not ready for that one question, right? But when you're fully educated about what you do know, you can ask me anything and I will answer it confidently. So when you're educated, you find that doubt is a planner. It could be the same thing. If you don't know certain things, go learn. People don't need to know where you're learning. It doesn't have to be public, but get educated so nothing will ever catch you off guard. It's like I always say, like, never take money if you don't know what you're doing, right? So if you take money from someone and your client asks you a random question, you can't go back and say, well, let me write this question down and go back and get that answer for you. You feel like a fraud. And then you go back home and like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm not meant to be a planner. Maybe you are meant to be a planner, but you just are not fully educated. So invest in education, invest in coaching, learn every day. Listen to podcasts. Podcasts is probably the best way to just absorb something new. Everyone in my community knows I listen to one podcast a day. It's when I'm taking a shower, I have my phone up in the thing and I listen to any podcast just to take something new in the morning. And of course I kick it into my Afrobeat playlist because I can't leave my house without Afrobeat. Especially my Tiwa Savage, my daily dose of Afrobeats. Literally that's the order in which I get up in the morning and I get ready. Podcast, music, and I'm out the door. So yeah, and then you just find that it could be one little thing or a boost of like confidence and energy, and then you show up better. And you don't, this is all for you, by the way. It's not for the world. Yes, the more you show up better for yourself, the more you show up better for the world, but it starts with us, right? So yeah, that would be my next part in terms of taking action. And then the other thing is just to do it. You know, it's like, there's no other way to say it now. It's like, we've done all these things. It's like, push the freaking button. Just do it.
Yes.
Just do it. Launch it. Do it scared. Hit that publish and run away. Just like run. But
Right.
do it. And then come back and like, I didn't die.
You didn't die. Like,
do it scared, but just
die?
take action. Take action. Do one thing. Because action is addictive. At some point, the more you do it, the more you start to enjoy it. You're going to want to do it without a push anymore.
Yeah, especially when you start getting paid.
Yeah. Well, when you get a lead and say, I saw your post, you're like, oh my gosh, it worked. I should do 3 more posts.
Yes.
Right. But even like down to social media marketing, a lot of people in my community are afraid to post. And we've been at this. I'm like, just post. I'm like, what if I get 2 likes? I'm like, that's 2 more than 0.
I know, that's right.
That's 2. And who says 2 is not enough at this moment? What if the 2 actually convert versus 50 and 0 conversion? Who cares who likes it anyway? Right? Just do it. And the more you do it, the better it's going to get, the more confident. And then, of course, the money's a perk, right? Because why do we want to do all of these things? Is to live a well-rounded life and live the lifestyle that we all dream of, right? To be able to take a vacation or to treat yourself to something lovely, whatever the case may be, is a big deal. So just take action. Just do it.
I agree. Once you get a taste of the things that you've been praying for and working so hard for, you're gonna keep at it. So every now and again, you may fall off the wagon, but once you get a taste of the life that you want, then you're going to do any and everything to keep that life and that lifestyle and that peace of mind and that sanity. And you never want to go back to being broke or never want to go back to just not having any leads, because you're going to start showing up when you realize that it is working. But and to go back to something you said earlier about like social media, I always share here, like social media and I'm like, but what works for me is that I post and goes. I post, and then the people that are my true friends and people in the industry who I do love and respect, I will follow their stuff, keep them in the forefront. And then everybody else, I may follow you, but I'm not going to be distracted by you, triggered by you. It's not going to feel toxic when I come on your timeline. So you also have to protect your energy there. And if it's not benefiting you, then you either need to unfollow, mute, block, do whatever you have to do if it means that you can use social media as a marketing tool and not something that makes you feel less than or inadequate or an imposter.
Yeah. I think that energy is big. Those things that make you feel crappy every time you look at it, delete it. Delete. Those pages that you follow that make you feel like horrible about yourself, unfollow it. Mm-hmm. You know, if your environment is not those friends that make you feel like trash, unfriend them. Literally, those peers that make you feel like you're moving too fast for them, let them go, because they will hinder you. I go back and look at my life now, and I'm like, if there's a certain circle of friends I still had, I had back then, if I had them now, I would be nowhere near where I am today. So I would say, like, you are, whether you like it or not, you are, part of you is based on your surroundings.
Right.
Eventually it will get you. And if you're surrounded by people that don't support you, eventually that lack of support is going to get you. If you're around friends that don't understand your journey, don't support you, they don't have to understand what you do, but they can support you, by the way. None of my friends really, like my friends before my wedding world, were in the wedding industry. The ones that are still in my life, they respect it, they love it. They may not understand my ins and outs, but they support me. And vice versa. You know, you want to do the same for them. This is not a one-way street. But anything in your environment that doesn't work needs to go.
I love it. And the thing is, with support, people don't have to understand what you're doing, because that is not their ministry and that is not the God-given talent they have, but they can support and love you unconditionally. And I think if people recognize and understand that, like, listen, I don't know what the heck you do in your coaching business. I don't know how you do these books that you do and this membership stuff that you do, but I know that you are passionate about it. You love it. You're excited about it. So I'm happy to be in your presence as you continue to grow. That's it. You don't need people's explanation or for them to understand, but you do need them to support you and have your back if you just need a shoulder to cry on, or you just need them to cheer you on every now and again. I think that is so important. And I'm blessed to have a friend group and a spouse. They don't always get the kind of work that I do, but they know I love it and they can see the impact. And so that's all that matters.
Yeah. And sometimes if that community is not in your home, you may want to find one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Place where we're saying, like, if your spouse doesn't support you, leave them. That's
wait.
But maybe you can now find that supportive community somewhere else, right? Start to open up and share your fears. Because for me, when I say something out loud, it becomes real. Then I hear it back. I'm like, girl, stop it. Right? Before my friends even get to respond, I kind of check myself. Right? So even for a small example, I recently launched my The Art of Celebrating magazine, right? And the first issue was my very first. And when I finished it, I thought it was fine, and then I sat on it for like a day or two because I had a conversation with myself, like, here you go again. What the hell do you know about magazines? Like, I know the content in there is true. It's great. It's helpful. It's in my realm, right? Because I always stay in my lane. But there was all these things circling in my head, like, a magazine, really? I'm like, what if the cover looks crazy to other people? Like, I went through this whole spiel. And then I did this thing where I text one of my friends. I was like, I'm going to just tell her myself. I'm like, here, you've seen the magazine. For some reason, I can't publish it yet. And she was like, what the hell's wrong with you? It looks great. And I was like, you're right. It does look great. Thank you. And I was like, what's wrong with me? So sometimes just saying it out to like a trusted person, they'll kind of help get you together because they know your personality. They know you. They know sometimes the push that you need. And for some people, it's not much.
Yeah.
Doing that. And when all else fails, to be honest, I would say go back to your why. The most powerful thing that you have in your life is why you want to do what you're about to do, or why you do what you do now, or why you want to do more. Everyone's why is different. It's never the same. It is your most powerful weapon. And when self-doubt, imposter syndrome, people's opinions, all these things creep back in, go back and look at your why. If you haven't written it down, go back and read your why again, whether it's family, your mother, your friend, your spouse, your future generation, or for you, your why will get you back in gear if nothing does. So when all fails, go back to your why.
So good. So many takeaways. I'm like, again, writing this down. Your why is your most like, oh, come on, somebody. Like, yeah. And that's why we show up to do the work that we do.
Yeah.
If you know what your purpose is, your passion, then you give yourself some grace along the way and you just go after it unapologetically. I think that should be the rule. And don't let anybody stop your coin or any of that based off of their opinion. And as I always say, the people who have so much to say are the people who are quietly suffering in some capacity. And you don't want any parts of that.
Yeah. People take out their insecurities on you and they lash out. And sometimes we have to be strong enough to recognize it. It's even hard for people we love, but that's exactly what it is. When they tell you can't, they're telling themselves, I can't.
Yeah. Or they just don't want you to do it because they don't either know how to do it or they just know they shouldn't be doing it. So they're going to convince you otherwise to not even try. Like, girl, don't even worry about that.
Or do not want you to be more successful.
Oh my gosh.
Than they are. And that's big. When you have a circle of friends and you guys are not growing at the same pace, and quite frankly, it's impossible to do so. Mm-hmm. Some people would try to, because it's like, oh, you're about to change this whole dynamic, right? And that changes, and it's happening. We don't need to go any further. We know so that's key. So sometimes you have to recognize those things and still just learn to channel forward.
Yeah. And the thing here on this show, we always talk about seasons. And so if you have a friend that is in a particular season in their life, or another colleague or another industry friend that has gotten the accolades or the clients that you know you want, celebrate them until it is your season, because not everybody at the top stays at the top. And if the energy is real and your intentions are, very much positive, then your time will come. It really will. But in the meantime, celebrate them, show them love and support, because you will expect the same thing when it is your turn, when everybody's getting their blessing cards handed out to them.
Yeah, even when it's hard for you, show up for other people, celebrate them. It just goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the show, around these parts, we do not use the word balance at all. And you are running a business empire. You are an amazing wife, friend, and someone that we all look up to and respect in this industry. So what is Akeshi's definition of living well-rounded with everything that you have going on?
For me, balance is, I don't know if it's a struggle for everyone, right? But we sure can try. But for me, living well-rounded is being aware of all the aspects of your life, right? And understanding that this goal, this money, and all the things is not your 100% part of your life. I believe our life is broken up in segments, and we have to make time for those segments and feed those segments. And sometimes and feed them one segment at a time. At least for me, I do not know how to do all the things. I cannot be a wife, business owner, sometimes best friend, at best auntie in 1 hour, like at that time. But I may be the best business owner at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then I'm the best me for myself from 12 to 1. And then I'm the best wife at date night from 6 to 8, because I'm present in those moments. It's just being aware of your compartments and feeding your life compartments to the best of your ability.
That's probably one of my favorite definitions that I've gotten on this show, because that's honestly how I see it. I see well-rounded as like a pie chart, a graph, but knowing instead that you give your best to those people who are in your presence and who deserve you. And then they're like, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for the time. And then now you can focus on business and kill it at business, and then not feel the angst that, oh, my kids miss me, or my spouse. No, the spouse knows date night is about to be, amazing, because now I have the energy and I don't feel the stress of trying to juggle all these different things at the same time. So that is
things at the same time, they all fail.
Yeah.
So
everything.
If you make time for movie night with your family, literally sometimes I throw my phone across the room. Like when I'm like on my bike, sometimes I would try to text and I'm like, what are you doing? And
right.
then throw my phone to the other side of the room where I know I cannot reach it, because I would try to reach for it again naturally. So I'm like, I cannot do, it's okay not be on social media at this very moment. Right. So I just vibe with my music and
Afro beats. Yes.
Afro beats is like, it is the best cure for whatever you're feeling. You're in a bad mood, just tap into Afro beats. You thank me later.
We need to just get your playlist and add it to the show notes.
Your playlist, because it's that good. It's kind of like when you're mad and then your favorite song comes on, you're like, I'm so mad right now, and then you're moving your arm and your feet start moving, you're like, I'm not mad anymore, and then music is for me, and that's part of my round. Like I have my husband just looks at me like, here she goes again. He's like, you just go into he calls them like music tantrums, where I just like, woo, and I just start dancing. And he's looking at me like, God, I married a crazy person. But
listen, it brings you joy. It brings you joy.
With your client, then you give them their 100% attention. And when you're working, and your friends and your loved ones will come to respect those boundaries too.
I love it. And so what are you most looking forward to in this next season of your life?
Oh man, I'm definitely in a very interesting phase in my life right now, where I'm being okay with doing less and doing more of the less, if that makes sense, right? Sure. So I'm doing a little filtering down and say, like, next year I want to focus on my virtual platform, a lot of my digital courses, less on weddings, quite honestly. I will do a few weddings, but I'm like, I want to give this period of time more love with my courses and my membership and my platform, because I want to discover this part of me that I'm enjoying. I turned 40 in May, just told my age, no problem. But I feel like it is the best, most amazing feeling I've ever had. I've never felt better about myself.
That's
I thought
awesome.
40 was going to be terrifying, but it's not. So I'm talking to myself about, what do you want to do at 40? Do you want to keep like doing production? I feel like I've done more than I dreamt I would do in 10 years. So now it's like I want to focus on giving back and teaching through digitally, though nothing physical, and do less physical stuff in 2022 and make more money while doing that.
I know that's right.
Covering myself and spending time with my husband and being there for my family is my current goal that I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And yes, congratulations on 40 and stepping into, what feels like an amazing season. That's so exciting. So we're going to shift gears and we're going to do rapid fire, this or that segment as we wrap up the show. So are you ready, Akeshi?
Ready.
All right. So let's have some fun here. So Akeshi, if you could hire a personal chef, once a week cleaning service, or personal driver, I'm thinking you probably have all of the above anyway, but
I wish.
if you could hire a chef or driver, which would it be?
Oh man, cleaning service. Every day though, it's got to be every day.
I say once a week.
Oh man, then personal chef.
All right, we got your chef on that. So what was your favorite, or not favorite, but what was your first job?
McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah.
Cashier, fry girl, what were you doing?
I was a cashier, and then, McDonald's, that make you rotate. They tell you you're a cashier, and then they tell you to go flip the fries. But I was the worst, because then everyone used to hit on me when they would come in. And I'm like, number 1 or 2? And they're like, I'll take a number 1 with your phone number. And I'm like, 1 or 2. So actually, come in the back and flip these fries. And then so we're in shorts. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. But yeah, first job was McDonald's.
My, how far we have come.
Right. Thank you, Lord.
They ain't asking you about 1 or 2 anymore. Love it. Passenger or driver, which do you prefer?
Passenger.
Same here. So should someone call you or text you if they're trying to get in touch?
I'm 50-50 though, but I appreciate a phone call from the right person.
Right. So are we listening to podcasts, or are we watching YouTube videos?
Podcasts.
Same here. And as a floral designer, what is your favorite flower?
Orchids. I love phils.
Yes, orchids. So beautiful. And you are also well-traveled. So what is your favorite place that you visited so far?
Oh, Greece.
Yes, love Greece.
Rainy was divine, unreal. I can't wait to go back. It's kind of like a Thai, but that in Thailand, but Greece is like magical.
Yes, I agree. It's good energy in Greece. At least it felt like it at the time, and then a couple months later, pandemic. So here we are. And I want to know, whose event are you dying to design and plan? So dream client.
Whenever Adele gets married, she's on.
That's a good one.
Yeah, yes. Adele to call me.
Hey girl, Adele, are you listening? What drink are you ordering at the bar?
A French martini.
French martini, yes. And lastly, what is something on your bucket list?
On my bucket list. Oh, I would love to travel to like Paris or like somewhere in Europe, just tour. I would love to go away for like 3 months with no cell phone.
Okay.
I can survive that and do nothing, like have no plans. I'll probably back in like a week, but on my list, like no phones, no electronics, just drive and explore and eat and drink for 3. I think I'll come back with mad inspiration.
That would be so dope. I love it. I love all of that. So, Akeshi, this has been amazing. Like I said, I have pages of notes, and I'm going to drop some of your contact information in the show notes and on our website. But where may our well-rounders find you on the web?
Yeah, I'm everywhere. So you can find me mostly, I hang out mostly on Instagram. My wedding page is at Kesh Events. And I have my personal page, my first name, last name. And then my coaching platform is the Kesh Experience. So you can find me there. Yeah, IG is where it's at when it's working.
All right. when it's working. And you also mentioned
online.
Right. That's the thing. The social media has been crazy these days, but you also have an amazing membership site that you pour so much energy and love into. So where can people find more information about that?
That's Creators Corner. And on the keshexperience.com, it has all our courses and memberships for wedding and event pros. And we have hundreds of members in there, and everybody's just doing great things. And it's just amazing to see everyone's support and growth. We all need community. So they help me grow. So that's probably my favorite part of all of this. Is like, awesome. I'm there because of my community. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then also you have a podcast. So if you guys love the gems that she dropped today, check out her podcast as well, because she has some amazing guests and also more insight that she shares each week as well. So thank you, well-rounders, for listening and hanging out with Akeshi and myself. We will be back. Well, I'll be back next week, and she'll be on her show as well. If you want to come back, we'll do another episode of something. We'll come up with something and hang out with you guys. One more time.
No, I said this was so fun. Thanks so much for having me. We talk all the time, so it just feels like one of our conversations.
It does. We do talk often. People probably don't know that, but it is real life, good conversations that honestly push me to be better and do better. So I thank you for that. And I hope definitely it feels like a two-way street.
The same way. Absolutely.
All right, guys, I will catch up with you soon. Keshi, I love you, and we'll chat with you later. And well-rounders, remember to stay safe, stay positive, and to focus on what matters most. Bye. Thanks for kicking it with us, well-rounder. Share this goodness with your squad and drop us a quick review. Get notified of new episodes by hitting the subscribe button. Until next time, seek a well-rounded life and remember to focus on what matters most.